The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
The Habit-Based Lifestyle and Business Show. It's Wednesday, and it is a great Wednesday. It is sunny here in Southern California. It's a little windy, but I am here with my trusty sidekick, Caleb. Caleb, what's going on, man?
What's up, everybody? It's Business Focus Wednesday here on the Habit-Based Lifestyle Show.
Yeah, so with it being Wednesday, if you guys didn't know this, but today is actually the day of the inauguration, and we have a new president being sworn into office. And I think the biggest thing that we're going to really work on today is talking about business, but also talking about distractions. And contrary to what anybody says or what has happened or taken place in this last, year, I think there's something to be said about the direction we're going in as a country, as business owners, that we must really understand that no one in here is a victim to life. And I'm going to kind of explain that as we get going on this episode. But one thing that I really want to say is, like, no matter who's president of the United States, what happens on a day-to-day basis comes down to your ability to create. And I really, truly believe that this is an opportunity in 2021 to be a creator, because I feel like 2020, for a lot of people, they've been stuck in kind of this, victim mode. Life's not fair. These things are happening to me. Kind of like this talk of like fear, this talk of scarcity, this talk of judgment. And I will even say that, I don't agree with what's happening right now, but at the end of the day, how much does that really affect my day-to-day life and the decisions that I make? Because if I focus on something outside of me, like who's president, I stop being the president of my life. And once I stop doing that, then I become a victim to it. And so as we get into today, we're going to be talking about business, but I really want to talk about the mindset of a businessman, the mindset of being a leader. Because at the end of the day, if we expect the president of the United States, no matter who it is, to lead us, we stop leading ourselves. And if we stop leading ourselves, then we stop creating the things in our life that we actually want. And so, today is we're going to talk about vision. And why do I want to talk about vision? Because I really think that if you don't have a vision bigger than surviving, if you don't have a vision bigger than like things not being fair in your life, if you have time to focus on judgment, if you have time to focus on fear, if you have time to focus on scarcity, then your vision is not big enough. And so what does that mean? That means that if you really have a vision for your life and for where you're going in your business, you don't have time to focus on the small things. You don't have time to focus on what's not fair. You don't have time to focus on who's been wronged or whatever inside the presidency, who's cheated or not cheated. And I will use an example right now of, if you guys didn't notice, we are streaming live through Caleb's, his social media thing. Like right now, I'm kicked out of my own group that I created. I'm kicked out of posting. I'm kicked out of doing live videos on my personal page, and inside of my Facebook group. And for about a day, I'm sitting there thinking like, man, this is a bunch of BS. Facebook is doing this to me. Facebook has, suspended me for no reason at all. And I started catching myself kind of getting in victim mode. And so what does that mean? That means that I started basically saying, listen, Facebook's not fair, life's not fair, all these things, which is, what victims do is we blame, we act like we're innocent. Okay. So the other side of this is, as I did some self-reflection, which is what we talked about, one of the main habits that we do inside a habit-based lifestyle. And we talked about this on last Friday's show, but it was about how do I turn this into a win? And one of the things is I'm like, well, I have my wife, I have Caleb that are in the group. We can use their thing. So one of the things is like, hey, this is a free platform. This has allowed me in my businesses, in 3 different businesses, to probably make over $4 or $5 million in the last, since probably 2013, inside of this. So this free platform has allowed me to make, close to $5 million in my business, if not more. It's allowed me to create a community. It's allowed me to build a brand, 2 brands. And so in doing that, I could sit back and say, well, yeah, I'm a victim to, I'm just going to say FB in case Caleb gets thrown in jail. But anyways, what I realize is like, how do I create from a place, if I'm a victim, to what's happening in my life? And so as I sat down and I'm like, listen, here's the facts. Like I've made, $5 million. I've created a business. I've created a brand. I've created all these things. I've created new friends and new people inside of my Facebook group. Is like, we just went over 1,000 in here yesterday, but it made me realize that, hey, I don't necessarily need to be doing everything. I have, Caleb who does an amazing job for me. We can find a way to get around this. I'm supposed to be suspended till the 23rd. And so really we could find a way around this, or we could find a way to focus on what's wrong. And so we can either focus on what's wrong, or we can focus on how we work around this. And so what we chose to do, and what I chose to do, is say, okay, listen, here's how we're going to get around this. So I've leveraged my wife, be able to post from her account. I've leveraged Caleb, but it's also allowed me to kind of step back and be like, man, maybe you need to get these guys more involved in your group, to where you don't always feel like the pressure's on you. You're the only one posting. And so as I've kind of done that and self-reflected, it's actually turned into a really positive thing, because I see some of the gaps that I've had. I also see that, hey, just trusting one platform, at any point in time, you could get something taken down, especially on a free platform. So you need to figure out another platform that you can begin to master and start moving forward. So if this is your primary business and lead source coming from this platform, if this got taken down tomorrow, for the most part, I will probably be screwed. Now I've have enough training on other platforms that I could immediately probably shift into those, but it's exposed a part of my business that I wasn't really paying attention to as much before, but now it's made it a necessity over the next 60 days to learn a new platform and to begin to master that. And again, nothing lasts forever in your business. You have to adapt. You have to evolve with what is thrown at you. This is one of the biggest things that I could say we probably learned over the last year is, can you pivot in your business? if you literally lost everything, could you restart it? You know, I have zero doubt that within 60 days, I could be fully up. 30 to 60 days, I could be fully up and operational with a brand new business somewhere else. If this platform was taken away, I have zero doubt in my mind, but I've basically went through that the last year. So the question for you is, if your business was taken down from being able to market itself, promote itself, do you have the ability, if your business was just shut down for no reason, do you have the ability to get it up and going in the next 30 to 60 days? Because if you don't, you're handicapping yourself with not only employees, you're handicapping yourself with marketing, and you're handicapping yourself with, you know, your clients. And so just imagine if all your clients went away, you know, all your employees went away, everything was taken away from you. Could you restart your business and get it back up to, how long would it take you to get back up to speed? And that is a huge part of, you know, where I'm really focused on over the last year, is really understanding my business to that point to where I could say, listen, I could take anyone's business, including my mind, and within 30 to 60 days, we could have it fully operational, systems, bringing in, you know, 15, 20K every single month, and just operating from there. Because I believe that's kind of the direction we're going to be headed in. And so the energy of the business is the same. So the energy it takes to be a victim is the same amount of energy it takes to be a creator, but which one are you going to choose? Caleb, you got anything to say on that?
No, I mean, you hit it. You mentioned everything, and hit it right on the head. I would just reiterate that you constantly are looking into the future. You're constantly looking at how to solve the problem versus dwelling on the problem. And a lot of that stuff that you said, letting go of the control in the Facebook group, allowing me and your wife to post, it also brought a huge attention to me, where it's like that seemingly problem created a bigger solution, created a solution of me taking over, posting more in the group from my account. And even though I post from your account, I got to really look at like, what would be the problem if I posted on my account? And we actually got more engagement over this past week, more people joining, signing up into the group since you haven't been there. And that completely shifted my mindset of what I thought we had to have, which was you in the group for it to be successful. And I think we're both getting proved wrong that it doesn't have to be that way. And we can only get to this place because you took responsibility versus being a victim to the circumstances. And we just pivoted, you know, we're always going to run into problems. Me and you have run into problems many times before. And the only thing we know how to do is just shift and keep moving forward, take the next best step forward. And that's super important for business owners to know, because we can easily get distracted by, like you said, the president, what they put on the country, what they put with the restrictions they put on your business, the taxes that they increase, XYZ, people all around us can do all these things to us. But if we don't take responsibility, then we have zero say over the solution that we get to create.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I think, you know, the coolest thing inside of this is, and the lesson that we could all learn is like, listen, you know, our taxes can be raised, our business can be shut. I mean, for the most part, our businesses could be shut down. A lot of things can happen to you, but like, we have to be able to equip ourselves with the mindset that, hey, listen, no matter what happens, I can always adapt, I can always innovate, and I can always evolve if I'm open to it. Okay. If I can get out of this, you know, if I can get out of this victim mindset. And I really believe that the biggest issue in our country is not who's president. It's us being victimized whether it be by a virus, whether it be by small businesses being shut down, like you have to, as a business owner, you have to be able to innovate at all times. If you're not innovating, then, no wonder when something happens, you have to shut down or you have to figure out something else. The other thing is you have to understand the skill set of a businessman. Like you better be equipped to be okay with like, life's not fair. Listen, life's not fair. Could you imagine, being a president of the United States and having half of the people, no matter what side you're on, 50% of the population hates you, regardless of who's president. And so with that, like a lot of times I think we get into a place where one or two people don't like us. One or two people talk bad about our business. One or two people, we allowed to live rent free in our head. And those one or two people are keeping us from, putting ourselves out there. Those one or two people are keeping us from posting. Those one or two people are keeping us from just stepping out and taking a stand in our business. And so if anything, from this point forward, like you better be ready to take a stand for your business. You better be ready to take a stand for, your family, who you are, and you better be ready to adapt in your business. You better be ready to innovate. And innovating means you're going to have to leverage other people. You're going to have to learn at a faster rate because we're living in times now. If you really think about 2020 was the year that we sped up in business because we didn't have a choice, right? And so people learned how to pivot in their business. That was kind of the word last year. So you learn that, hey, I can't rely on my brick and mortar business because at any point in time that could get shut down. And so what we've done is we've helped entrepreneurs go virtual or hybrid, which means they still can operate their business no matter what gets shut down. So that was something that we had to innovate in. That was something that we had to adapt in, even though for the last, 2 years, I've been doing mostly business virtual. It also helped me teach people the things that I'd already been doing. But inside of that, it helped me kind of relearn my skill set in doing the things that I thought was easy. And so, going through all of this has not only made, me stronger as a businessman, but it's also made, people on my team like Caleb stronger in what he's doing because he's realizing, man, we got to innovate. We got to adapt to what's happening so that we can continue to move forward in our business.
Yeah. So let's turn the question back around to you guys. If you guys are watching live, comment #live. If you're watching the replay, comment #replay so we can see who you guys are. We don't know who's watching live. We just get a number. But let's pass this question off to you. Whether you guys are real estate agents, insurance brokers, whether you're in the mortgage industry, whether you guys are chiropractors, coaches, whatever industry you're in, there is something that is holding you back. And something that's keeping you a victim. Where in your business are you a victim, and where can you start taking responsibility? So comment below, where are you being a victim, and where can you start taking responsibility or taking the next step forward in growing your business? Right now, with us and Jesse, it's expanding responsibility. That's where we are learning how to grow in this time where Jesse's in Facebook jail. Is responsibility has got to expand outwards instead of Jesse taking on more responsibility as we're growing. So comment below. We would love to hear what you guys are thinking and talking about. And if you guys are listening to this on the podcast and you guys aren't in our community, join our Facebook group, Habit-Based Lifestyle and Business Secrets, and join the conversation with us, because this is what business owners need, is support. That's how we continue moving, is constant support and reminders that we got to be taking responsibility instead of being victims in our circumstances, especially today.
And I will say this, like when we say victim, we basically mean like, listen, you have the ability to be a victim or a creator. Okay. A victim could rightfully so be victimized, whether it's, someone shutting your business down, telling you can't work, to, you know, just things happening. Like maybe you have been victimized in your business or in your life, but that doesn't mean you have to stay there. It doesn't really honestly serve you to stay there. And what I've noticed is the more people that are victims or stuck in kind of that victim mindset have a small vision. And they have a small vision because, I don't know about you, but like I sat at church, I think it was on Saturday or Friday night, and one of the guys up there was talking and he mentioned, hey, your pastor has a vision of opening up 7, other churches across 7 continents. And I'm sitting there like thinking like, man, what kind of person has a vision like that? And does he have time to worry about all these little things like, who's president, who's not president, whether or not, it's fair or not fair, or life isn't. And I sat there and thought about it. I'm like, man, if you have a vision that big, you don't have time to focus on little things. You don't have time to worry about all these small things that we tend to sweat. Here's the other thing. If you're someone who likes to control every little thing in your business, what you're really doing is you're keeping yourself small because you don't have that vision. You can't have a vision and have control. It just doesn't work that way. And so, I will say that there's a lot of business owners that I get to talk to that, they have to have control over every little piece of their business, but you can't have control and have a huge vision either, because they just don't work hand in hand. One, is like, hey, I see myself, whether it be opening up 7 locations of habit-based lifestyle or 7 churches across 7 continents. I don't have time to control everything. I can't control everything if that's my vision. And I said, I think the bigger thing is when you have a greater vision for your life and for yourself, that you have to let go of control in order to reach that vision. And that's really like a lot of growth is we want to control growth. You can't control growth. Okay. You almost have to surrender to your growth, and just let it take you. And you could say that in anything, right? It's like, you can't control every single thing that you do in your body. You got to kind of surrender to it, because what happens is when we try to control things, we're coming at it from a place of scarcity. Like we're going to lose control. We're coming at it from a place of fear. And in those two places, you can't grow. You will stay stuck, and you will, overthink it, and you will do all these other things, but you will not reach your vision, if you have to have control over every little piece.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that as business owners, you gotta have a vision bigger than your own business, right? Just like the Pastor Mark you were talking about, is he has a vision bigger than his church that he has right now. His vision is to build 7 churches in 7 different continents versus just him thinking about the vision for his one church, right?
Yeah, you got to have a vision bigger than your current reality.
Yeah.
And your current resources.
And I would even say, even to business owners, when you're looking for leads, prospects, and your ideal client, it's also super important to know their vision and their goals, right? Because if they don't have a vision big enough to succeed in the area that you want to support them in, then they're not going to be successful, right?
Yeah, I mean, typically we don't want to work with people who have a small vision for their business and for their lifestyle. So what does that mean? That means that, like, hey, if your number one thing right now is maybe add, $4,000 or $5,000 in revenue, and not have to work. I mean, that's not really a vision. if your vision's like, hey, I want to grow, I want to 10x my business, and I want to be able to, take my spouse on vacation every 3 months. I want to be able to hang out with my kids. I want to be able to do all these things. And that is a greater vision. But we also have to remember that we have to have a vision greater than our current set of resources. We have to have a vision greater than our current status or our current place. And like you said, if your vision, is just to be a good person, well, that's great. But like at the end of the day, that's not going to drive you forward. And so, I don't know why today, but I feel like, your vision has to be greater than, the current circumstance you're in. Your vision has to be greater than your current business model you're in. And your vision for your clients has to be greater than just keeping them average.
Yeah, if you have a weak vision, you're going to take weak action. If you have a weak vision, your employees are going to feel weak as well. But if you have a strong vision as a business owner, as a leader, you will take stronger action, and you'll not only take stronger action yourself, but you're going to help the people around you who are doing business with you. You're going to empower your employees, the people working with you, to take stronger action as well with you. And that I think that's why it's super important. Jesse, why do you talk to a lot of business owners, you get on calls every single day. What is the number one reason, or one of the reasons why a lot of these business owners don't have big enough visions, or they can't create one, or they don't have one?
They're just trying to survive in day-to-day business.
So it's the survival mindset that they have that keeps them small.
Yeah. And I will tell you that, business is very similar to your marriage. So I really believe that couples struggle because they don't have a big vision for their marriage. And so that really translates over into business. Typically, if you don't have a big vision for your marriage, which is really your number one business, then you're probably not going to have a big vision for your business. But I also see people sometimes have a greater vision for their business than they do for their marriage. Then there becomes a huge disconnect. So a lot of, think about this. If you have a big vision for your marriage, do you have time to worry about, the smaller things in your marriage?
No.
You just don't. And so you have kind of a common mission, a common vision for your marriage. It's like we're focused on, hey, here's where we're going. We're not really focused on the speed bumps that come up along the way, or maybe like the peaks and valleys. We just kind of keep moving through them. And we have to adapt in our marriage too, the same way as we do our business. Like, okay, hey, maybe me and my wife aren't agreeing on something, but like ultimately we may be here, but our vision is here, even though we don't agree on something, and we're not going to agree on everything. That's why we married our spouse. What is it going to take for us to still move forward? And so same thing, Facebook locked me out of my account, but hey, here's where I'm going. How do I get around that? How do I figure out, how do I adapt that to where I can keep moving forward? And so that is ultimately is like, hey, this thing happened to me. This thing happened to my marriage. This thing happened to my business. Something was taken away from me. Okay. Regardless of what that is, you have the ability to take responsibility and say, okay, listen, I don't understand why this thing happened to me. I don't understand, maybe why my wife's treating me this way, or why my spouse is treating me this way. But either way, I have to learn to adapt so that I can move forward and get it back on the path to my vision. Okay. And that's a lot of what happens in our lives is people can stay stuck in this place for months, for years. And then all of a sudden they're making decisions from that place. And that is the worst place that we start making decisions. That's like waking up every day in defense. And then we're just like constantly pointing out everything wrong. man, if I have a huge vision, I don't have time to point out everything that's wrong. I only have time to figure out how to move forward.
And how to get there.
Exactly. And so that's why I really, when I think about the business owners I get to talk to and I get to work with, is the business owners that are having a really hard time and struggling. They don't have a vision, at least not big enough to cancel out all the little things happening. Okay. They're just kind of stuck in this survival mindset, survival mode, and getting them out of that is the number one thing that we have to really work on when they first come into our program.
So what I'm hearing too is if we find ourselves in not only just business, but in business, life, marriage, if we find ourselves focusing on the small problems, I guess what I'm hearing is we could take that as an indicator that our vision for that area of our life is too small, that our vision isn't pulling us past these small problems. And these problems are just distractions to not have a big vision, right?
Or we put the blame like, hey, why is my wife doing this? Why is my kids doing this?
Why is Facebook doing this?
Why is my client? Why is Caleb doing this? But we never take responsibility and say, well, listen, even though they're doing this, like, how do I take responsibility and move them forward or lead them forward? Because ultimately, if I stay stuck in that place, everything stays stuck.
So for realtors, for people who are business owners, insurance agents, chiros, coaches, if they don't have a big enough vision, what can they do to start putting themselves in a mindset to start creating a big enough vision for their business? We're in a new year. Maybe a lot of business owners crushed it last year or didn't, and they're in a mindset of, okay, now I have to create something new from scratch for this year, set new goals, set new targets that's going to pull me through whatever this year has for me. What are some steps or some things that people can do to start forming their mind around creating a bigger vision?
I think the biggest thing is like, what if you could do anything, with your business or in your life, like what would it be? And then like times it by 5. So like, hey, wow, I want to make $1 million. Okay. So then why not $5 million or 10 million? Because here's the thing is, making $1 million. Okay. So you made it. So then what? Am I going to show up differently if I want to make 5 million, or am I going to show up differently if I want to make 1 million? Okay. Now, if you're making 100,000, then I would say, okay, well, listen, you want to make 5 million, let's make 1 million first. But like, I know and it's not always about money either. Like most people are going to be driven by money or be driven by helping people. But I also have to understand the more people I help, chances are the more money I'm going to make. Okay. So in doing that is like, I got to get really clear on what it is that I want my life to look like. And I want my business to look like. That's not comfortable. Like, remember this, a vision is uncomfortable. A vision is not comfortable. Okay.
I was about to say, when you said, would you rather make 1 million or 5 million? And you said, just times it by 5 and 5 million. I was like, oh shit, I almost shit in my pants. That's not even my vision, but I almost shit in my pants. Right. So I'm imagining the vision that you have, you'll know it's big when you get a lump in your pants, right? Yeah.
Or, I mean, anytime you feel like yourself kind of like scared to like, hey, here's my vision.
Yeah.
But like, remember this is the more focus we put on that, the more we see that every day. We start showing up differently when, my vision is to, help 1,000 people versus helping 100, and so I think some people don't realize what they're capable of. And so they settle for something less, and there's this word of, hey, I don't feel like I'm living up to my true potential, but then why are you settling, for less than what you're capable of doing? And as you do life, as you do business, if you find yourself constantly thinking about the small things, constantly trying to control every little thing, chances are you're walking around with like a small vision for your life and it's just right in front of you. If you miss, a lot of those other things, then, you have a greater vision. You're like, hey, here's where I'm going. It's on that mountain over there. I don't really know all the steps to getting there. I just know I'm going to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I know for sure in my own body, when I set actual goals and targets for the weight I want to lift or the pounds I want to put on or the physique I'm going for, I work way harder and I show up way more at the gym than when I'm just like, oh, I just need to work out to stay healthy. I miss days when I just stay with the routine and don't have a vision. I miss days because I'm like, what does it matter if I miss a day or two, right?
Okay, so that's kind of like a goal. Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's set a vision for your body and see what changes. So vision is I see myself competing in, this thing in a year or in the next 18 months.
I know for sure I've wanted to do a Spartan race for a long time. Those looked really fun.
Okay, so when are you going to do it?
I have no idea. I've never looked into it, but I want to do it this year.
So now you're starting to have a vision of, hey, I could see myself doing like the Spartan race, the Beast, or World's Toughest Mudder.
Yeah.
Where it's a 24-hour race. Then you're like, oh my gosh, I never seen myself doing something like that.
Yeah.
So that's having a vision beyond, like visions are longer than the next 90 days. Okay. Visions are longer than probably the next year. Visions are longer. Now there's things you can set up along the way, but like a vision is generally longer than, a year, 2 years. It's a longer thing that you're looking for is like, hey, I know where I'm going. I'm keeping my eye on this, but I know there's going to be things that come up along the way that I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, I can see that now. Now I'm at the place where I'm like, wow, like what would it take for me to do a Tough Mudder or a Spartan race this year? I'm gonna have to change a lot of stuff, but ultimately my desire to want to do that is gonna have to override the laziness. Maybe if I don't want to go to the gym, or if I don't want to practice, or don't want to train, or if I don't want to eat right, the vision of doing something even harder really does put me in check. I think that's how I got through my 75 hardest, because I had a vision, at least for that 75 days, for something bigger than where I currently was.
Well, so here's the thing with a challenge. It's like 90 days. It's like we have a goal or outcome of where we want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the problem with that is that once we stop, then we don't have a vision beyond it, if that makes sense. So like that's a goal or target. A vision is something that's usually 5 times to 10 times more than that. But
that we're striving through over the course of years.
So we continue to kind of build that. I remember like me and my kids and my wife moving down here. That was a big vision where I actually like sat down here. I'm like, listen, I'm going to be moving down here in the next like 18 months. I've seen myself with my wife, my kids, having a house, all these things. But then we have to also understand that if we fulfill that vision, we have to set another one. That's where it starts getting a little bit scary. You're like, oh my gosh, like,
another one. I just finished this one.
Right. And so vision kind of keeps us growing forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something we just grow temporarily for 90 days.
That's a great one.
So so like visions keep us growing forward. I always think of like a sun, right? A sun, you can always locate a sun. Sometimes it's cloudy. Sometimes it's rainy, depending on where you live, it could be windy, but ultimately like every day, the sun kind of directs us on what time of day it is and where we're going. So we can always find it, but sometimes we got to sift through clouds. Sometimes we may not see it for a day or two. So like your vision's kind of the same way, as you always have to have this thing of where you're working towards and where you're going. Okay. Now where I want to get into next is once you kind of define what that is, we also have to get in to what is the thing that I must leverage to grow in that vision. Which for you, if you're going to do a Spartan race, I mean, what's the things you got to leverage?
I got to leverage people who have done it before. I know people who have done it that I could definitely talk to.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the wall in that office you're in, if you look to the right, you can see that somebody's already done Go Ruck or, well, I've done that, but World's Toughest Mudder, which is a 24-hour race on that. So yeah, that's, I've already done it, man. So
yeah. And that, I mean, I would definitely have to leverage the gym. I would definitely have to train different than the way I'm training now. I would have to leverage my own knowledge. I think there's a lot of knowledge that I have about my body that I don't really pay attention to because I've never had a reason to, right? So there's a lot of things I would have to leverage.
Right. So here's where we get into. So we leverage learning.
Mm-hmm.
How do I speed up my learning? We leverage people. Okay. Who are people that maybe have done what I wanted to do? We leverage, our training. We leverage, reading. So we kind of go through all these things, like who are people that have done what I wanted to do? How can I learn them, or how can I get around them? How could I interview them? Who are, what are races out there? So I start and then what are books that I could read to help me with my training? Maybe there's a training program. So we want to get into the creative mindset. And when I'm in that creative mindset, do you think I'm thinking about any reason why I can't do it?
No, I'm pretty sure you're thinking about what it takes to get there, all the solutions to the problems.
Right. And so this is what a creator does. Is they're sitting there looking for all the different things that can help me get to where I want to go versus, someone who's a victim, maybe, I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't even know why I try, or I don't even know why I get out of bed.
Yeah. So when creating a vision, we also not only have to have the vision, but we got to ask ourselves, what are things that we have to leverage, right?
Yeah. Leverage, learn, what are specific things that I got to learn in order to pull this off or do differently? Maybe it's getting up 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's changing up, the style of training you're doing 2 to 3 times a week. Maybe it's, you getting outside and doing some other things. But like, if I'm translating this into business, maybe it's you, learning how to market, maybe it's you, needing to hire a coach like Habit-Based Lifestyle to learn how to help you grow your business. Maybe it's, you, having to bring on other people in your business so that you can do more of what you really want to do. And so everything that we do, we have to learn and leverage people, programs, services, offers, and we got to leverage more of our time because ultimately, if I can leverage my time, I can exponentially grow at a faster rate.
Yeah. So if you guys are listening to this right now, I want you to put in the chat, whether on the replay or live, but what is the one thing or some things that you need to leverage to start reaching your vision, right? Just as Jesse talked about, you got to leverage people, you got to leverage information, you got to learn some new things. And there's a lot of things that you can leverage. What do you need to leverage that you haven't thought about to get to your vision?
Exactly. So let's kind of wrap this up for today's episode. I know we didn't really get into specific. Actually, I want to kind of how do I make this vision a habit? Okay. So one of the things that I would say is like, listen, write your vision down on a piece of paper as if it's already happened. Okay. So it could be like, hey, January, 2023. January 1st, 2023, I'm sitting here and I'm looking back at all these things that have happened. Maybe it's a paragraph, maybe it's a page, and you read it every morning and you read it every night before you go to bed. You don't have time to worry about the small things. And if you do want to worry about the small things, just pull out your vision and be like, hey, is this going to help me get to my vision, or is it going to hold me back? Is what I'm going through with my spouse going to help me with my vision or hold me back? Is it going to work or not work for us? And those are the key questions, because when I have a vision, those become really clear answers. When I don't have a vision, those become very confusing answers.
Yeah. So today, not only did we talk about vision and creating a vision for your business, but we also talked about earlier in this podcast or earlier in this show about taking responsibility versus being a victim. And that helps us move on the day-to-day, right? We can't create if we're stuck being a victim. And you talked to me about that this morning, is I can't create a new solution if I'm sitting here being a victim to all these outside circumstances. So
yeah, just think victim is like problem-based thinking. So you're focused on the problem. Creating is solution-based thinking, and which one keeps you stuck in where you're at? Yeah.
So if you guys are listening to this, think about, what vision do you have for your business, for your family, for your health, for your spiritual connection? What is your vision that you can set that's big enough that'll stretch you and pull you past all the problems, where you can start thinking about taking responsibility all along the way? You can start thinking about creating solutions instead of focusing on the problems. Where are you going to be? Where's your business going to be? Where's your body going to be? Where's your health going to be? Your family going to be in 2023, right? Not just in the next 75 days or 90 days, but in years' time, right?
Yeah.
And we can leverage.
Let me add one more thing is the area of life you struggle with the most is because you don't have a vision for that area. And so, maybe if I struggled most in my spirituality, maybe my relationship with God, maybe I have a small vision or I don't have one. It's more about just trying to figure out like where the hell I'm at. Same with a lot of people, they struggle with, their weight and their health, or they struggle a lot with their health and fitness. It's because they don't have a vision. They're just surviving. A lot of people right now are struggling in marriages because they're just surviving. They don't have a vision beyond the day-to-day survival. A lot of people are struggling in their business because they're just trying to make their next paycheck. They're just trying to make their next $1,000. And so once we have a vision, we stop focusing on the day-to-day survival and we start focusing on where we're going. So like we stop kind of looking in the rearview mirror, driving down the road and seeing what's behind us or what's about to catch up to us. And we start focusing on, the horizon.
Where we want to go.
Right. And so, we don't have time to look in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's it for today, guys. We appreciate you being on here. Love having you be part of the Habit-Based Lifestyle and Business Show. We'll be back on Friday with the lifestyle side of it. This kind of crosses over into both, but I kind of felt like this was the message given to me today that I wanted to share with you guys. Caleb, you got any last words?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right, guys. Have a great hump day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse